Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tourpreneur podcast. This podcast is another one in the series of talking to our 100 Tourpreneur founding members. These members were the ones that way back in September 22 all paid up some money to kickstart changing the podcast into a much deeper community that now provides coaching, business and engineering, partnerships with other technology companies like our partnership with Google, and basically building the community out in a much wider and more in-depth travel resource for all of the thousands of tour operators around the world. Tourpreneur is now at 12,000 operators this week. I think we hit 12,000 operators, and we're consistently growing at 6% month on month. So we're going to be at 20,000 and 30,000 within the next 2 years. So the focus of today's podcast is opportunity and challenges. We're speaking to all 100 founders to find out what their opportunities and challenges are for 2024 and 2025. We're going to kick off with challenges and then finish up with opportunities in an optimistic way. And today I would love to introduce you to Sherri from My Bella Vita Travel, which is an outbound operator to Italy, multi-day. And then Cherrye from Portland by Mouth, which is day tour food operator in Portland on the west coast of the USA. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're going to start with challenges. Now, you're both very different businesses because one's multi-day and one's Italy, a specific region of Italy, Calabria. And Sherri, you're a day tour operator looking for lots of volume going around Portland, making people eat lots and lots of lovely food and drink lots of wine, which you do as well, but you do it over multi-days. So very different business models. However, let's get into the challenges and see if any of our challenges and any of our opportunities are similar or are they going to be completely different. So, Sherri, let's start with you. What is your number one challenge 24-25?
Well, my main challenge for 2023, and unfortunately, there's no sight in end for it in 2024, is that tourism is way below pre-pandemic levels. So just to measure, Travel Portland, our DMO, keeps track of hotel reservations. And in the peak months, we were at like 56% hotel occupancy in the city. Pre-pandemic, it was 90%. So I did all these things like improve the website, hire guides, expand my brochures, be on more resellers. But if the tourists are not coming to the city in the numbers that they were, then it doesn't matter how great your tour is. You're not getting the numbers that you want signing up.
So, lots of lessons here.
Yeah.
First one, you did the exact correct thing, and I'm just making sure everyone who's listening to this, who's a tour operator, has picked up on it. You need to find out the occupancy of beds in your destination if your business is tourists. Now, right. I say if your business is tourists because we have huge community of different type of operators. Not everyone's business is tourists. A lot of businesses deal with a lot of locals or a combination of local and tourists.
Yeah, mine is combination.
If you deal with tourists, you need to know the bed occupancy of your destination because that gives you an indication on what the industry is doing as a whole. If the bed and kind of it's up, you know the place is busy. You'll get a sense because of your own bookings in your own city. You'll get a sense how busy it is. The restaurant's busy, the cafe's busy, the hotel's busy. But the hotels are hard facts. If the bed occupancy is down, I think you said 56%, down to 56%.
Yeah, it's at about like 56% in the summer.
Yeah, so that's a dramatic drop-off from what it was previously. As small operators, you're not in the business of destination marketing. You're in the business of marketing your own business, your own experiences, your own services. The reason I say you're not in the business of destination marketing is because you don't have the resources to do it.
Correct.
You just don't. Now, by definition, you're doing it anyway because your tours are in your destination. So the more content you put out there mentioning, in your case, Portland, you are doing it anyway. So if all the Portland operators are putting stuff out that mention Portland, they are doing destination marketing, but you haven't got the capacity to change what the trend is at the big scale. And the DMO will actually struggle because the bigger trends in society that drive where people are going to and where people are not going to. Now, your destination sounds weak from a visitor level from 2023 compared with many destinations that were doing pretty well. So there's got to be some bigger trends that are driving people or not driving people to your destination.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. I think 2023 was the year where a lot of people decided to take that European vacation that they hadn't taken since the pandemic. So I asked people at the DMO, well, doesn't that mean that the people in Europe were taking their big United States vacation they wanted to take? Yeah, but Portland's not usually on their first time trip. You know, they're doing the national parks, New York City. And we do get some international travelers, but we had more people going out there and not as many coming into us. And then we just get bad press. The whole West Coast gets a lot of bad press in the media, which is somewhat warranted, but overblown.
The other, so basically what you're saying is all your clients went over and went to Cherrye in Italy. So
right,
we won't
right.
They just keep on it. There is another way of addressing this, and like I say, you can't impact the big picture, but you can impact the local picture. And you mentioned you do get local guests who are in city and region. If
Right.
this is happening and it looks to be a trend, because if it's going to be a trend for 2024, 2025, you have to do something about it.
Yeah.
You've not got the ability to do the big picture stuff, but you certainly have the ability to do the local stuff. So locals suddenly become your core business. And they may have not have been in other years, but in a market like that, locals then become, we all experienced it in COVID, locals became core business for lots of businesses because no one else could get to them. So locals become the core business, and then it's a case of segmenting the local market. Who is the likely people in your market to take food tours? And is that families? Is that groups? Is that education groups? Is that student groups? Is it hobbyists who all meet up every Thursday evening to go and do their hobby? And is it corporates? That corporates can do it. You've definitely got to build a bigger market in your local one if you cannot be consistently confident that the tourist one is going to deliver year on year on year after
Right.
there. A local market with the right products delivers all the time.
Right.
It just keeps on delivering. It doesn't have the fluctuations of tourism because it's a more stable population. Obviously, if your population is decreasing, that may not be true. But certainly in my experience, a local market just keeps delivering. And then if you're in a local market, what happens then is tourists become a bit icing on the cake. When you have a great tourist season, your business is great because you've got all your locals and then you've got tourists on top. And if you've not got a great tourist season, yeah, it's not so good, but it's not really hurting your business that much because you've built this local business. And this isn't a case of should I, shouldn't I. When the destination is not getting the volume of tourists, you don't really have a choice.
Right. Well, there are locals that come, even more so in the cooler months, and then even in the warmer months because their friends visit them, and then they want something to do, and they all come. So locals are finding me, whether they Google food tours or just fun things to do in Portland. So that's great. I just wonder, how do I get the ones that don't know yet that what they want to do?
Yeah, this last 5, 6, 7 years, the industry has become very marketing-led, which we understand why. People build really nice websites these days, and it's all about inbound marketing. So you're putting your message out there, content, videos, photography, websites, blogs, blah, blah, blah. People find it, and then they give you an email and a booking on your website, and that's all great. But there is a failure in that model that you're relying on people finding that content.
Right.
And there is, as you've probably noticed, I'm old, grey and grumpy. There is an old way of doing business where you actually go out and knock on doors. When I'm saying knocking on doors, I'm not meaning you go to the business park and you stand there and knock on the door and go in. But you're literally knocking on doors. You're sending out emails. You're phoning. You are going to meet people. You're going to do presentations at these local chambers of commerce or local, whatever networking group it is. You get a chance to go there and picture, get a chance to go there and speak up. This proactive business development and proactive selling opens new channels. A lot of operators don't like doing it because they've been trained for this inbound marketing, which it again has to be done, and it works great when it's working. But in difficult markets, you have to work harder. That's the bottom line. When the markets are booming, and we've had some of this coming out of COVID, everybody does great, but not everybody's a great business. The market is allowing everybody who's got a service and a good experience to do great. It's only when you're in a down market that you actually find out which businesses have got the resilience to keep it going and build on there. And if that market, the ones that survive well in a down market tend to come out into a good market really well. And in a down market, you definitely have to knock on doors because the content's not going to drive the tourists because the tourists aren't there in the destination anyway. And in your business, you get a lot of bookings from people who drop into destination, so it's last minute. So you're going to have to go knock doors in multiple ways. So it's not last minute, because when you're knocking doors, it's not last minute. If they bite and if they decide to do business with you, it's going to be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in the future. So you're constantly knocking doors to keep that pipeline going. And there is no better doors to knock in a city. And I've never been to Portland, been to the West Coast, but I've never been to Portland. But every big city has got a big corporate network of companies. There is no better doors to be knocking for day tours than corporate doors.
You're saying go to like the Nike and the Intel in
every corporate work.
Any big company in the city, yeah.
You're providing food tours, which is something that can be tailored to anybody. Right. Don't just take your existing experience you're selling to tours and try and sell to a bunch of executives from Nike. Put something around that tour that makes it suitable for a corporate company.
Right.
Don't just try and give a corporate company a tourist experience. Put something around it that makes it interesting for that corporate company, that appeals to what they're looking for, it appeals to their work. And is it around team building? Is it around exclusivity and again, making everybody work together and diversity? Is whatever it is, build something around it that speaks corporate language. The actual product can be much, much the same, but the way you communicate it, the way you demonstrate it, when you're pitching it, don't pitch it like they're tourists, because they're not tourists.
Right.
Cherry from Italy, what's your challenges?
Well, I have several things.
Yeah.
How much time do we have? No. Well, unlike Sherri, we actually had a really great 2023. Like she said, everyone was going to Europe, and so we had a great year. My current challenge that's keeping me up at night is that our small group tours are just really low selling this year. So last year we had a lot of excitement. I got those out earlier. So I know where I made some big mistakes as far as that goes. But we have like 5 of them. This time last year, all of them were booked up, and we had a waiting list. We ended up running the same tour 3 times because waiting lists kept getting filled. And this year I'm struggling to, fill them. Any thoughts of wisdom for me?
That boom last year, when you stole all the customers of other tour operators, were they customers that went on your tours last year first-time customers or repeat customers?
Both. It was a pretty good mix last year. And this year, the people who have booked are mostly repeat bringing their friends.
Yeah. So you're missing the new customers. Just, the reason I was thinking is because if you had coming out of COVID and all of your past customers from previous years had that crazy, we must get out of America and go to Italy thing, you may have used up all your repeat customers last year, where you're not getting the booking this year, and that will have had some effect in it. Therefore, it's got to be more new customers this year. This is big picture stuff, and I don't know this for a fact. I've got a feeling that demand to get out of America last year was much bigger last year than it is this year. I'm not seeing as much traffic coming out into Europe this year from across America. I was checking some flights out to America the other day, and they're insanely expensive. And that's probably because I'm in Europe and I'm used to flying about for cheap. But when I was shocked when I looked at the price of a flight coming out of the USA versus what we pay in Europe. So the price of actually the logistics of getting back and forward maybe having an impact, and with inflation and all the other stuff that's gone on. Could be that the market is just saturized itself last year with everybody having that dream holiday, that dream trip that they've been dreaming about all the way through COVID. And now they're thinking, we don't need it so much this year. There's that other big event happening this year that always has a weird effect in you Americans' heads. There's an election, and which that has no impact at all in Europe. When there's an election, it doesn't impact travel at all. In America, election years impact travel. I have no idea why that is, but it does. It is what it is. So you've got that election coming up. That could be impacting travel. The hard truth, your marketing for your new clients, was it on point? Was it not on point? Was it
must not have been, right?
Not getting the response, not getting the leads, or if you were getting the leads, you not got the conversions. So there can be a host of things. It is what it is. You know it's what it is. It's what you do about it.
So we actually have a lot of custom tours and private tours. So it's middle February right now. We have more already in the book for this year than we had all of last year, and last year was a great year. So people are traveling. They're just doing the custom private tour route over our small group.
Yeah. And this may be a destination thing. I do know factually, because I was there, Italy was crazy last year. Everywhere you went, it was a mob. Restaurants, crazy restaurants, hotel prices through the roof. So the busy period, the holiday season. So what goes round? Travellers, what goes round? What has gone round? Is that driving people to do private, more personalised, more bespoke, rather than small group tours? Again, this is straight off the top of my head. I experienced in Italy and speak to a lot of Italian operators, and it was just insane last year how busy it was, to the point that service wasn't being delivered. People were having to wait too long, queues to get into hotels and queues to get into restaurants, all the rest of it. That may be impacting small group tours, or I don't know. But my gut feel is the market is so big for outbound USA into Italy on any given year that my gut feel tells me it's something to do with your market and not hitting point. Because even in a down year or a bad year, the market for that distinct trip from the US to Italy is still huge. In a bad year. In a good year, it's ginormous. In a bad year, it's still huge. Therefore, something's telling me there's maybe something on your market and that's not home on the small. It's obviously hitting home on the bespoke, and the private tours, it's just not hitting home on the small group tours.
Okay, that's something I can take a look at. Thank you.
Yeah, you got to go back and look at it. And at the end of the day, these things never work perfectly, as we all know. You're creating a system, and it's a repeatable system. That's what you try to build, but it's never finished. It's altering every single season, every single year, because things outside your control and our control are happening all the time. So pricing's changing, content's changing, your supply's changing, and where you used to take people, you can't take them now. That's changed. Everything's changing. How you market it to people also changes constantly. And used to be Facebook ads were doing brilliant. Facebook ads got more difficult. They're now back to doing pretty good again. And PPC via Google used to be fantastic at a cheap price coming out of COVID. It was outrageously cheap coming out of COVID, so you could buy huge amounts of traffic, but now the price is going to re back up again. Every single one of these little components in your marketing machine is constantly changing. So it's a case of measuring what's working and what's not, and then making more changes to try doing it. So back to sunny Portland. What's your other challenges in Portland?
Yeah, well, the one I had written down was just very personal. Last year was my first year hiring guides. And even though I've been self-employed pretty much my whole adult life, I've never actually employed anyone. So that was just a big learning curve. There was actually a tourpreneur that was nice enough to get on the phone with me, and I asked him what he did. And I appreciate the time he donated to me. It was helpful. And he had said basically taking people on a couple training tours and then they go. I was thinking, God, that doesn't seem like enough, but I didn't know what would be enough. So I did that. And, for one person, it was enough. For one person, it wasn't. I just found that I didn't get enough time with them to set the expectations and give them feedback. So yeah, having guides not well trained and resulted in like one firing and then one good guide who's just not available all the time. So it made it like last year, me still doing more tours than I was trying to do because I wanted to put more of my time into growing the business. So this year, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to train the guides more thoroughly.
So this is the third recording of this series I've done with TP founders. Every single one of them has mentioned training.
Okay.
So far. Yeah. Not necessarily about the guide. Some of it was training in other parts of the business. But so far, 3 out of 3 recordings, everybody's mentioned training.
As their challenge. Yeah, because I have a lot of things in my head. I can write it down, but it's like, are they going to remember every word that I wrote and they read over once? I don't know.
So we're all guilty of this because the majority of members are small businesses with small teams. Training is, on the whole, not done well. Often at the front end of the business, it is done quite well. Guide training is often done reasonably well. Training in other sections of the business is not done well, but even at the front, sometimes it's not done well. A lot of it depends, if it's at the front end, a lot of it depends on who the guide is, because if you've got a really experienced guide who's been guiding for 20 years, and they ain't going to need a lot of training, they're going to need your culture, your style, your ambience that you want to get across, but how to communicate with clients and how to keep clients going and how to deal with things as it happens, they're going to have the skills to do that. It's more about the actual product and what you're doing. If it's an inexperienced guide, obviously the training level is much, much higher. But as I said, some of the other people have brought off, you can't train enough. We don't do enough of it. You can't train enough. If you've got people who are going to be with you for a long time, they're at the front of your company, they're representing your company. You want to keep as much training investment out of them as possible.
Right.
And this is a bit wide statement here, again, because I'm old and grumpy. Younger people coming through seem to need more training than when I was recruiting people. I don't know why that is. There's something going on in society, but there seems to be a need for more training and more in-depth training than there used to be. I have no idea. But again, it means you're going to have to do more training. Right. You brought up are they really going to read it? So hopefully everybody's got manuals, operational manuals, guide manuals. Are they going to read it? Yeah. Well, they need to. And they need to adhere to it. But today there's all these tools, and I'm not going to go on about AI because this is not an AI podcast. But it's very easy to have an AI agent that you upload all of your guide training and all of your operational training. And then rather than them having to read it, then they can have a conversation with an AI agent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then that builds and that builds, because then, like we're having here, a two-way conversation is more for many people. Some people can learn more by reading. I read a lot, but I read more I learn more by conversations than I do by reading. So if you're suddenly an AI agent's helping you train the guides, I'm not saying let an AI agent train your guides, but it is an assistant to help you train the guides where there's a two-way conversation going on because they're asking questions about your procedures and your operations. And then that's building your training data and base for the future guides that come in and other employees that come in the years going forward. Every 3 out of 3, and I'm wondering if it's going to be a 5 out of 5, 7 out of 7, 10 out of 10. I think everyone's going to mention training, because I'm just getting this feeling it is a major issue with companies at the moment.
Yeah, well, this year I'm going to implement that we also have time to go do the tours when there's nobody else there. It's hard to give feedback when they're on the tour. You want the guests to be having an experience. So having more time just with me, and then I can highlight the things from the manuals that I think are really important. So yeah, I'll be investing more time and money in getting them up to speed. And then also I kind of lucked out this year with hiring with Indeed. I just got a better selection of candidates. I have some great people that have grown up in Portland. They've worked in the restaurant industry. They're up on all the news. So they know the city, and it's good. I don't have to like spoon feed them, or just, here's a lot of stuff about our city. Here's a lot of stuff about Oregon. And they have the right personalities and approach.
This is good and bad news. I could be wrong on this, but I think last year it was virtually impossible to get anybody working because the demand for employees was off the scale.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's peaked, and we're on. And there's now more and more people going back into the job market. There's more and more people waking up to, and there's not 15 companies chasing me to give me a job anymore. There's only 1 or 2 chasing me. So I think companies are going to have a better choice of staff going forward than you did in 2023, when it was virtually impossible to find staff because the demand was huge.
Yeah, so better people and me being more prepared. I feel like that was a big challenge, like kind of a failed challenge in 2023. But in 2024, 2025, I consider it a good challenge for me to learn that skill myself, and I look forward to it.
Sure. Cherry.
So you're going to laugh, but my second question was also about becoming an employer and some of the growing pains that we've had with a new extended team. So we've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks with training, and we've started working on some SOPs and doing some videos with Loom. And I actually have, I was trying to remember it so I could share it with you now, Sherri, but it's a software where you can, like, it follows you while you're doing something. Especially important for me, like say on the back end, if I'm building an itinerary or something, the system will follow me and then create like a SOP that you can share with people for that. And you just kind of have to tweak it. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll share it so we can put it in if anyone else is interested. But that was one of my questions, and it's about guides. And we have 3 guides who work for us like exclusively, basically full time. And we've had a shared calendar for as long as I can remember, and it's never been an issue. And ironically, coming out of the busiest season we've ever had, with more people already booked than ever, there's starting to be a little bit of like jealousies, like, well, why is this person having more tours than me? So I guess my question to you, Peter, is do you think a shared calendar where everyone knows what everyone's doing is a bad idea? It's worked in my favor up until now, but because I liked that the guides could see where each other were, and they would use that a lot and say, hey, you're also in this town, like let's get our groups together and let them all talk about, like let's all take them out for a glass of wine together. The travelers loved it, but I'm not really liking the,
Yeah. So
I'm too busy for the
Yeah. We all are. So the first thing is when you're building a business, and I see this mistake time and time again, not just with tour operators, but all small businesses. And I still see it today on LinkedIn and stuff, and people treating employees like members of their family. Our company's a family. Your company is not a family. It never will be a family. Your company is a team. It is 100% a team, but it's not a family. You're very upset when you lose someone in your family. and it's a big hole in your life that doesn't get replaced because you haven't designed a system to replace it when somebody in your family dies. When somebody leaves your company, hopefully you've designed a system that team member has left and another team member comes in. So that's the first thing. You're building a team, not a family. When you build a team, you're systemizing building a team. It's like a sports team, and you're bringing people in that can do specific jobs. You're there to be the manager and the coach to get them to do specific jobs, but you're also creating an environment. If they're not there, because tomorrow they may not be, there is a solution to step in there. Now, some of that solution is cross-training. So people can understand other people's jobs in the team. They're specialists at their job, but they've also got the skills and the ability to do someone else's job. Maybe not as well, but enough to step over. Because if someone's not there, that team member has to step up. Instead of having one job, they've still got two jobs. Still only got 40 hours a week, but they can split the job with them. So that's this whole thing in team. I'm building a team, not a family. I'm not getting into a personal relationship with all these employees, because at some point you may have to sack them or let them go because of COVID or whatever it is. That is the hard reality of being a business. And you want that team, everybody respecting everybody else, everybody being on the same vision, everybody working towards it. But at the end of the day, you're building a business. And they have to understand that. You have to understand that. So I'm a big fan of clearing the decks at the beginning and making sure everybody's on the same board with that. With regards to your calendar sharing, everybody knowing what everybody else is doing, with the right team, I'm a huge fan of that because that enhances team. It enhances the business. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing. Something's not working because something happens, because life happens. Everybody else can help and move in. So I'm a big fan of it. If it's causing grief because people are saying they shouldn't be doing yep. That's human nature. It's just humans. Humans are weird. Yeah, that's management then. When you see that happening, I'm not saying that's caused by a calendar. That's there anyway, and then it's enhanced because people have seen it as a calendar. And it's enhanced because they've seen, which gives them more reason to do the nicking. That is a leadership management thing where you've got to sit them down and tell them what way's up and what way's down. That's a leadership thing. I wouldn't change my way of operating with a calendar where you want your whole team saying everything to do it because basically you're then pandering to an employee's whatever gripe they're getting on that, and it's an adult conversation. You're sitting down and making sure everybody's on the same road path to making the business better. To me, using a shared calendar where everybody knows what everybody's doing, that doesn't work when you becomes a really big business, by the way. That works when you're a small business. And once you get past even the 10, 15, 20 employee mark, that doesn't work. If you've got 20 guys deployed, 50 guys deployed, they all don't need to know what the other ones are doing. But when you've got a really small team, 6, 7, 5 and under, I think that shared everybody knowing what everybody else is doing is a good thing.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to some opportunities instead of all these challenges that everyone seems to go on and make us all go grey hair. Let's get into some opportunities. Who wants to start with opportunities for 2024-25?
I can go first. I had put in that, I haven't yet cracked the nut to have a flood of private/custom/corporate tours. I do them. We have a great time. They end up being more profitable, not necessarily because of their margins, but because they're kind of guaranteed usually to be bigger groups. So yeah, I have the rhythm of them down. I just want to, I like to make that a bigger part of the business. And I feel like if I focus on that and the tour, if I can have the guides deal with the tourists, I can work on be available for the private and custom and corporate groups. So yeah, this year I got a list of just recently, of all the, people that are, or all the groups that are going to be visiting the convention center in Portland. And I plan on reaching out to them in the next week or so and then offering their groups all private tours.
Yeah, so you I agree that is an opportunity, and it actually helps fix some of your challenges that you mentioned before.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something there that made warning bells go off in my head. You like these groups because they're bigger groups, so you're making more revenue.
Right.
And at the dollar end, you're making more dollar profit. But you also mentioned the margin's not different from the tourists.
Yeah, usually not. I mean, there's one evening tour, but I know we've spoken on this topic before. I generally find companies to be just as price sensitive as anyone else. Like yesterday, I was talking to someone, they want to do they're from Dropbox. They had 9 people. They want to do an evening tour. I described the experience, how great it was going to be. And, I had them, and then I said, it's $155. And it's like, crickets. Well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. It's like, that's not that much money.
And you got to win some, you lose some, but private tours and corporate tours need to be priced differently from your tourist tours.
Yeah, well, if the private tours are less than 9 people, then they are more money.
You need to have that a higher margin in there. Why?
Yeah.
Because you're going to do more work. Why? Because you're going to tailor them. You're not just going to deliver the same product a tourist gets. That product is going to be wrapped up with other things to suit the briefs you've had from that client. So there's more work involved. Well,
sometimes not. A lot of the times I can streamline it and just make it the same tour.
You don't want to make it the same tour. Back to previous conversation, you don't want a corporate company or a group coming from Dropbox doing exactly the same thing as a tourist. Yes, because then they can just go on your website and book at a tourist rate to do it. You want to treat them as a special customer in your pyramid of customers. And down here, you've got tourists, which are volume. And then you've got another channel here, which might be education. And then you've got these family groups or whatever networking groups I was talking before. Up the top, in most tour operators who are dealing with corporates are the number one customer from a margin point of view. They may not do the volume with them, but the product they deliver in the corporates is tailored to the corporate to give them a much better experience, delivering on some of their needs, and there's margin built in to take care of that. And it's basically finding out where their price points are and what is their price point, but it's not the same as a tourist. It just isn't.
Okay, so you would say even if there was a time where I gave them the same tour, they said we're 14 people, we want to do something in the afternoon, and I gave them the same tour, instead of making it $99, make it $109.
It would be more than that.
Where it was the same tour. If I'm customizing it, then I build in a little extra money for that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of delivering corporates the same tour ever, unless they're physically came and saying they've seen something on your content or your media or anything, say, I want to do that. And they're going, I want to do that. Unless they're saying that, I would always be selling them something that I'm not selling to a tourist.
Okay, understood. Yeah.
One, because I'm going to get a repeat client out of them, because Dropbox doesn't employ 9 people, it employs thousands of people. So you get a repeat client out of them if they tell the other people in there, if you get into their intranet or whatever way they're doing their internal communications. There is a pipeline of business in there. You don't want to break into a big pipeline of business at a tourist rate, because once you've broke in, it's going to be harder to change your prices for the second group, the third group, the fourth group, because they communicate.
Well, I mean, this was a case of I've built in like $65 of profit a tour instead of $50. I mean, per person, $50 when I said $155, and that's like, sometimes people say, great, like they just know that they want it. And if I can make it happen, I can see they're not that price sensitive. And maybe I left a little something on the table. But this is not the first time that's happened. That probably happens more than that, where people are like, wow, 100. Actually, it was 145. I just raised it this year to 155. So it happened at 145. Or, oh, well, is there anything we could shave off? And it's like, no, not really.
And the other question,
I mean, just because something's a company doesn't mean that everyone's throwing money around, in what I've found in my conversation.
The other way is and you won't always get an answer to this, but easily half the time you will, before you say anything in detail on your price, you're asking them what their budget is. Because if someone from a corporate's contacted me and saying, I've got 9 people where I want to go out and do something around my product range for a day, and they're interested in a conversation to come up with a product with them, one of my first questions is, what is your budget for to taking these 9 people out? And you will get an idea. And it's not like everybody bands about the word corporate. You know, corporates is made up of lots and lots and lots of different types of companies and verticals. So I used to be selling to the insurance houses and banks a lot. They got a distinctly different price from when I was selling to a plumbing company.
Mm-hmm.
Within corporates, there's different types of corporate based on who they are, and you know by the name of the company, the salaries the employees are getting paid roughly, or it's very easy to find out. So pricing can be different within that market as well. And one of the best questions you'll ever have is, what's your budget? Not everybody will answer it. They'll hum it all around, but a lot of them will.
Do. And the corporate has sort of a similar question that I have with the locals. Like, all the locals that come, love it, have a great time. And even this weekend, they said, our friends are coming back, and this summer we're going to do another one of your tours. So I've done custom tours for all sorts of offices, like dentist, insurance, a group from McDonald's, bachelorette. And I think everyone likes it. How do I reach all the insurance? Maybe every insurance office wants to take their team out and do this food tour. So how do I reach the ones that don't yet know that what I'm offering is what they want to do? There's a lot of business there that I haven't touched.
Each corporate company, one corporate company of scale, if it employs 5,000-10,000 people, is a lot of business.
Right. That's a big company, like if you get into Nike or Intel. But then there's a lot of small offices too, and they say, we want to take our team out. Like, they might be an insurance office, they want to take their 8 people out. And we did great, but I think there's hundreds of insurance offices in Portland. How do I get the rest of them to sign up?
Yeah, and that comes back to previous conversation. So take that in 2 ways. If it's a big company, there's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 employees. Your job on the tour is to find out whoever's the manager on that tour, that group. You have to have a conversation with them.
Right, with them.
How do I get what we are doing now in your internal communication? Because that company has internal communications. Used to be called intranets. God knows what they're calling them now internally. But they have internal communications, which is all about looking after the well-being of the employees and the social things, and daycare for the kids, and gyms and health and food. You need to get on that. And you need to get on it via this person you've got.
Right.
That's the job. So you haven't finished your sales process when you sold that tour.
Yeah.
That tour was a lead to allow you to open up a much bigger business within that one business. Therefore, you've got lots of pipeline of sales coming from that. Your other example of an insurance house with 9 people, but there's 1,000 insurance houses, that goes back to what I said before. That's going round knocking doors, but that's a long way of doing it. I can guarantee you all them insurance houses are having network events where the managers or the leaders or the owners of these are meeting at the chambers of commerce, or they're meeting somewhere. They're doing things together where you've got 20 of them or 30 of them in a room. And it's your job to get in that room, because then you're reaching 30 in one go. And you use what you've done. We did this experience with such and such brand because straight away they feel aligned with it, because there's been another company that does the same job as them, experienced it. So it gives them that feeling that this could be a thing for us. You're using these things. Like when I was building the corporate banking business, insurance business, every time I pitched, I was using the competitor. Every time. Right. Here is us doing this with your competitor, and made it as blatantly obvious as I could. Back to sunny Italy, and it will be sunny in Italy.
It will be, yes. So my opportunity, it's something that I've been working on in my head for years and years. And I want to, break into Italian American, specifically Calabrian American organizations, and present them with multi-day tour options for their group. So basically custom group tours for their organizations. And I have a couple of contacts that I already do this with. And they're really great. I mean, they do group tours with us every year. But that is something that I see as a big opportunity as genealogy travel continues to grow and people are going back to rediscover their roots. It's actually become a whole market, but we've been doing this since 2007 before it was named. And so there's an opportunity there, and I haven't been able to break down that barrier.
So I agree with you. There is an opportunity there. And if you've got one or two of these organizations who feeding you groups now, by definition, that means the other organizations can feed you groups as well. That again goes back to, this is not modern sales and marketing. This is old school. This is, again, you having a list, a spreadsheet of all of these research or find, I don't know how many there is in the US, 50, 100, 200. But in today's world, you're going to be able to find out reasonably quickly. It's a spreadsheet list, finding out who the lead contact is for them. And then it is a phone call, email. I'm a big fan of phone calls and video calls rather than just emails, because emails just disappear. Get emails for chasing afterwards, after the phone call, backing up the phone call. But this is old school business development of going one from other to other to other to other. And geography-wise, some of these organizations are going to be miles away from where you're in Italy half the year. But when you're in the States, I believe you live in Texas, is that right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. It could be in New York, or they could be anywhere. It's having the confidence during that conversation, that call, to justify, if I come to meet your group, because that's a big investment from you, but jumping on a flight and going pitching to a group that ends up with 5 years to 10 years worth of business, to me, is well worth my time. I'd qualify it before I jump on the plane.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I'd qualify it before I was on the plane. But again, so many operators are trying to do everything without the human touch and the personal touch now, just by marketing and emails and a little bit of this, and they feel comfortable in that. But you've got to go out and press some flesh and shake hands and smile and again have some wine. And well, it's Italy, it's all wine and food.
Right.
So getting in there and selling what you do. And if it's the right size organization, you'll have a better idea on how many bookings that can be over a 5-year lifetime value. And again, these organizations speak to each other, so the network effect starts happening. When you get to a certain amount, when you build a channel like this, and then weirdly your channel starts building to a certain extent on itself, because you become the known person that is doing that and is building that channel out and the references. Because someone leaves that organization in New York and moves to Miami and joins the one down there.
Mm-hmm.
And they take your name and stuff. So this stuff has an organic growth to it as well once you get to a certain size. But it's hard-nosed, old-style work of phone calls, lift research, phone calls, pitching. I think it's much easier today because of video, but then jump on that plane. If you qualified it, can I come and pitch at your next XXY meeting? Do you think that would be worth my time? And ask it, do you think it would be worth my time? You'll burn on some, but if you do enough, I think you will get value out of it.
Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful. I've seen some of that kind of organic growth with our boutique custom tours. Like those things are lots and lots of word of mouth, lots and lots of I heard about you from, and that's taken off. And especially last year and this year, it's just been this particular area I haven't been able to break into. But
this sort of channel development. So I would class that as a channel. It's a very distinct niche channel. Mm-hmm. To me, it has huge volume. And this sort of channel development I love as a business model, because everybody's struggling over it. And that's not to say you don't do all your digital media stuff, you do. But all the digital stuff, all the SEO, all the blogs, all the social media, all of that, it's a very noisy environment out there. Hugely noisy with everybody, and everybody's getting better at it. And it's not just better, it's more off. And then with all the technology coming in AI, there's going to be even more off. So you're going to be, this noise is going to get noisier and noisier and noisier. And for the client, for the guest, it's hard to wade through all that and find stuff. So this other way of doing business development, where you develop a channel that no one else is thinking about, is I love that sort of business development, because it gives you lifetime customers over a long period of time, and you become the known person in that niche little channel. For a multi-day operator, it only needs X number of guests per year. Again, to make your business really successful, you don't need many of them. That's the hard reality. Again, you don't need to be delivering and driving 10,000 clients out of them things. And you become the known person in these channels. It can build you a really good business. So I like that idea a lot. Let's finish up with your last two opportunities and two quick ones. Sherri, people, and...
I hadn't put this in the email from yesterday, but last year I did several fam tours, and that led to some connections and someone in the local Portland industry connecting me with a lot of inbound operators. So I think I'm up to, I counted like now 12, or for this season, 12 or 13 resellers. And I think that's good. You know, so some resellers I've been with a couple years, they haven't sold any tours, and some end up doing a nice amount. So now I'm going to be reaching people from Europe that are coming to the West Coast of the U.S., and I'm starting to get those bookings. So that takes some work to build the relationships, get it all set up on the peak end, and a little bit of maintenance with the relationships, but not a huge amount of time output on my part once it's already rolling. I guess I pay in that I give them all 20%, but that's okay, especially because it doesn't take up a huge amount of my time once I get it rolling.
Tours are underappreciated in your space. In multi-day, they're not underappreciated. In day tours, they're underappreciated. Farm tours work really well. I was a bit of a farm tour junkie when I was operating. I used to host a lot of farm tours, and I used to go, because I had both day tours and outbound. I used to go on farm tours, and I used to host farm tours. One thing with hosting, rather than me just being the host of one individual business being the host, it's much better if you can get 3-4 non-competing businesses. So you will know several other day tour businesses in Portland who have nothing to do with you. Right. But if you can get 3, 4, 5 non-competing businesses in a destination, that is much more attractive to the agents to come along than just one person.
Right. Well, the person that organizes the fam tour, she has them going on my food tour, and then they're going to go on someone else's snowshoeing tour. So they get there like 3 or 4 days in Portland, where they basically do a 2-week vacation in 3 days. Yeah.
Right, so you've got someone else organizing this, not you organizing, and you're bolting into someone else's program.
Right. Yeah, there's actually people that work for the DMOs who their job is to organize fam tours. So that's good. That has led to some opportunity. And then another quick one, and this is more about destination organization, destination marketing. Although West Coast cities do get some bad press, Portland is still always in the news for good food. And we won the most James Beard Awards last year. And, just lots of good press around the food, which is one of the things we were really known for before the pandemic too. So I feel like once the dust settles with the bad media, the fact that there's all these articles online and the continued good press about the food scene is only a good thing. I realize some people are going to come to Portland and do my competitor's food tour, but that's okay. They can do both.
It's okay. Yes. Yeah. People come to the destination is good. Don't worry about your competitor isn't really a competitor. Entertainment as a whole was a competitor. People go to Portland, if they're in destination, things to do is a competitor, but things to do include hundreds and hundreds of different things.
Totally.
And so it's only when they actually get down to, let's do a food tour, then your competition's gone down to 3, 4, 5 of you, however many's left. But before they even get to that point, you have a lot of competitors you haven't thought about.
Yeah, maybe they want to go do something else entirely. Yeah, so
don't get wrapped up in the competition.
No.
Yeah. Cherrye, your last one?
Yeah, so another thing I want to work on this year is, Sherri mentioned it as well, and so I was taking some notes about corporate, and it would be like, I don't know how to do that. But as an example, I have some guests who traveled with me 3 or 4 times, and last year we expanded and we started covering Malta. And so she contacted me. She said, my husband and I won like a trip basically to Malta, and our family are like our grown children and their spouses. Can you take care of them while they're, while we're in our meetings, and then plan things for us to do in our free time? And we did that. But I'm more curious about actually bringing groups like that into Calabria, where we are doing their hotels and their dinners and that kind of thing. So there's not a lot of that going on in Calabria right now from an American perspective. And so I'm just starting to think about that as flights get a little bit better for flying from the US into Lamezia. I want to be positioned in a place to be able to offer that.
Yeah, so the corporate route for you being multi-day versus Sherri being day tours is very different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For blatantly obvious reasons. You're not going to get as many corporate people doing multi-days away from their business versus a day experience. It just doesn't happen like that. So
right.
This multi-day corporate tends to happen in different ways. Events is a big one. They travel for events and they will be in a destination 2 days, 3 days. The events will be work, but they will want to slot in some entertainment and cultural things around the work. So there's an opportunity there, depending on kind of the destination you're in. Is there any events working there where you can slot in? You're not going to look after them coming for 3 days on that unless you get into the event management game, which I recommend you don't, because it's a specialist thing that others do. You do want to speak to all the event managers in your region to see if you can bolt products in there to help them. So that's one way in. There's another way that, and this is happening a lot now coming out of the craziness, a lot of companies are now distributed, i.e. people working from home, people working remotely, so they're getting together more than they used to, like from a travel perspective. But it's not to travel, it's to get together because they haven't seen each other for 3 months. And the CEO's pulling his hair out, or she's pulling her hair out because they feel it's not working as well, all the remote work. They need to get them all in a room. So they're going to destinations, but they're going to work. Therefore, you're not building out an itinerary. If they're going there for a week, and a week is normally what's happening, you're not building out an itinerary for a week because they want to work. You're building out some things that are going to bolt in the evening, or maybe half a day that they're going to do. Now, if you pitch for the whole week, you're doing the logistics. You're getting them the hotel, you're getting them the spaces they're going to work, make sure they have the media, make sure they have the internet, the connections, all of that. You're not going to be guiding all that stuff. That's just the pure logistics, that you're becoming an enabler of a destination for corporates who have got these retreats going on because of the way work has changed. Now, that market is booming, right? And that's purely driven by the amount of people that are distributed everywhere, and they're finding out they have to get them together. And it booms as much in small businesses as big businesses. And in big business can't get 10,000 people out to fly to Italy. It's not happening on the whole. But there's lots and lots of small business. When I say small businesses, sub 200 person companies who are spread all over the place, and they're getting together to do that. That market is absolutely booming. There's another one where the leadership of companies, and this is one I used to get a little bit myself, and the leadership, so the senior leadership, the exec team of companies, are the ones that can take several days to a week off to go away as a group, because they decorate it up as a strategy week or a return, or they have some major decisions they have to make about the business, and they take the small leadership team, we're talking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people away, and they do something in an environment that allows them to have the private conversations. they're normally doing it over something quite serious. It's not just normal business planning that people do all the time. When you get these leadership groups doing something like that, it's normally something quite serious in my experience, having been privy to a lot of the conversations. They're looking to buy a company. They're looking to get rid of their company, close the company, sell the company. It's normally quite big decisions that they just need to get away for the business, and you've got the leadership team there, which I think that may appeal to your destination because it's small and it's there. The logistics of all of this plays a part. Right? How far are they willing to go from point A where they are to point B to do this, because they have the choice of doing it in a lot of places. And the hard reality is the shorter the logistics, the bigger your market in this space is. And the longer the logistics, because the flight takes a day and a day back, and it builds into their time. So the logistics do play about on this, which means from your marketing to try and capture this market, you have to look at the logistics. And although for leisure travelers, USA is a brilliant market for you, it may not be the best market for this. And it could be a bunch of Italian corporates in the north of Italy is absolutely rammed for corporate companies who may want to get down to the south of Italy in their winter because it's cold in the north of Italy. It's not cold. I'm in Scotland. It's not cold, but it's more miserable than the south of Italy. So it could be that. And it could be people Central Europe, German, French, Brits, rather than American. But that's a kind of range of things that again, high margin, high price point, very personalised, bespoke. I never scaled it up. We used to do a bit of it, but it never really scaled up.
So I know we're running out of time, but just really quickly, where is like a starting point to be able to look? Do they use like a specific corporate travel agent that you would? I mean, like, how do you?
The really big companies have their own company corporate travel desk. They may employ a couple of people in there, or often they've got you think they're employees, but they're not employees. They belong to some travel company they've got a contract with. So it's really hard to be that because it's a B2B relationship. You're not pitching to the corporate, you're pitching to the travel company. Mm-hmm. Because the CEO or the leadership team just go to the travel desk, or they'll get an email saying, sort somewhere for us. Right. They may give them some ideas, or it's the PA sorting it. Sort somewhere else. We need 4 days, 5 days away for private meeting, blah, blah, blah. Them ones are difficult to get into because you need to get in the travel. It's the smaller companies, the companies who are 50, 60, 70 people, 100 people. They're the ones that you can get to them. You can get to the leadership teams and pitch to them because you're not going through multiple layers. They don't have a travel system in the business. When they travel, they may have a favoured travel agent or something that they go out to, but they're certainly not employing one, and they're certainly not giving one a contract. And therefore, they're more open to approaches in this. Yeah, we got a few of them, not a huge amount, but a few of them was by doing the other bits of the corporate business we were doing with Sherri style, where we were dealing with the middle managers and the corporates. We managed to get a few of the execs off of that, doing different stuff. Because the execs kept seeing their teams doing stuff with us and said, who are these people? Why have I got so many teams going doing this? So we picked up a few of the execs that way doing it. I never found that demanding business in any way. I found it easy business to deliver because they weren't demanding, because they weren't there for what we were doing. They were there for really seeing, and they just wanted nice food, nice environment, nice accommodation, and some experiences. They did do some experiences. But on the whole, it was pretty easy business. Hard to get, but easy to deliver.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's us at the end. Thanks very much for all your opportunities and challenges for 2024-25. To everyone listening, thanks for listening. And we will be having many more of these until we get through all 100 Tourpreneur founders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Cherry.
Ciao.
Ciao.